Commence primary ignition.
Hey, I'm actor Chris Bartlett from The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're watching Virtual Cantina Network.
Thank you, Chris. Happy Monday, Rebels.
Hi, everyone.
We are here celebrating our favorite little murder bot's greatest hits. And it's not quite what you think.
No, I wanted to call it the
Hi,
Chopper
Sarah.
Killathon, and I was told that that was a step too far.
Aw, by who?
Everyone. It was
Oh,
across,
okay.
across the chat. Yeah.
But this is
It's
how
going to
we
be that,
keep
though.
from being booted off of Facebook. So
Yeah.
this helps.
Because you'd have to,
Hi,
like,
Sarah.
put a little asterisk where the I is. You know, I can't be, like, promoting that on the Facebook, being like, come visit the Killathon tonight.
The
Yeah.
thon.
Ooh, it's good for the chop. I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, we should have a chop graphic for every time.
Oh my goodness. So as you can tell, this is probably one of my favorite episodes we've ever done. I think we're prepared for it with our shirts. Yes.
Chopper's
We
on here
need more.
somewhere.
I love that. Oh, he looks so cute. I didn't get to see him in
Flying.
pop form. That is adorable.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
cute.
I need that shirt.
He's already very stylized, as far as droids go, being
Mhm.
like mostly animated, and then the Funko just adds a whole other layer to it.
Did you see that they're doing an Ahsoka Chopper Funko?
Yeah. This is my back and forth with all of this. As much as I love Ahsoka, and I know there are people who don't love it, the thing I think we all agree on both sides is the merch being Ahsoka and not Rebels is frustrating for Rebels fans to
Yeah,
see all the
agreed.
things that could have been done in the Rebels design pop out in live action Ahsoka versions. No, thank you. I'm going to pass on pretty much all of it, other than the ghost, because I need a ghost. And that will be the centerpiece of my living room now once it arrives in fall of 2024. But
Exciting.
outside of that, like, I don't plan on getting the Ahsoka version of Chopper in Funko form. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I already have the other 3, and
Yeah.
there are the 2 variants. I think it was the Imperial paint job, the regular one, and then the one with the misspelling. So I have all 3 of those.
I have like this is the little origami ghost. I bring him out every now and then.
Oh, wicked cute.
Yeah, very cute. I'm sorry, my light is so bright. I gotta do something about that. See, now it's too blue. Um, I don't know. The ring light is aggressive,
Tap
guys.
your screen. Yeah,
Yeah, like
there's
tap,
no
tap.
other way around it.
Yeah, it's either that I can either
Hi,
look
John.
washed out or a little too. That's actually not bad. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that looks pretty good.
all right, let's do that now. If I sit back far enough,
Sorry.
there we go. That could do it.
Yeah,
Well,
I have
hi
to put my
everyone.
light
Yeah,
across on the shelf here, so
this is the stuff I usually sort out before I join, and I had like a crisis of 0% battery on my laptop tonight,
he pulled a
which
me.
was it's so silly because last on Daughters of the Galaxy last Wednesday, I was having trouble logging into the StreamYard because I have the administrator login on, and that's on my husband's laptop, and I'm like, why can't I get in? Because I'm just Mark Von Olen tonight. I'm not an administrator on StreamYard. I'm just in as a normal person,
Oh,
and so
no.
on Daughters on Wednesday, I used my husband's, and then I never plugged this back in, so it's just been sitting there, and I was like, what's been happening? So
Oh, no.
0%, and I was like, why isn't this going? That was that moment. So we're off to a great start, guys. It's an awesome week. It's the start of Spooky Week here on the VCN, and we're kicking it off with Chopper's Greatest Kills, which is going to be really, really fun. So everyone who's ready for some good Chop stories, we found some YouTube videos and listicles and all sorts of nonsense, and just our favorite things that are going to come to mind.
Yeah.
It's not, we don't have a list order. It's going to be very free form. We're going to hop around. We're going to be more chaotic than usual. So I hope everyone is going to bring that same energy.
Fittingly chaotic, yes.
Yeah. We may murder people off screen. And then
Okay.
the madness continues this week because the Nerf herders are doing on Wednesday. Oh my god, uh, A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake.
Oh
Um,
boy.
look,
Oh,
there's nothing better than watching YouTubers and personalities that you enjoy talk about a terrible movie. There's almost nothing better on the internet. So
no,
I'm
I
very
haven't
excited about
seen
that.
that one. Come and I'm talking to a horror fan. I adored Jackie Earl Haley in as Rorschach in
Mhm.
Watchmen.
Yeah.
How is he in this?
Oh, awful. And it's not his fault. He's not the
Oh,
problem. It's the script and the story and just yeah, Sherry, we're gonna somehow be more chaotic, don't you worry. We're already off to a great start talking about Nightmare on Elm Street.
yeah.
But I because we're not gonna be on with the Nerf herders,
No.
obviously. But like they are going to tackle. I mean, if you thought Freddy versus Jason was bad, like I feel bad for both these franchises. Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street are both caught up in like weird legal stuff. We can't get new movies. There was a plan for like a Crystal Lake prequel series that seems to have evaporated. Horror is having such a moment, and it's working everywhere. And like two of the franchises from the 80s that built the genre are spinning their wheels in either legal problems or some other creative problems. Like both
Oh
relaunches
man.
failed, right? Like the Friday the
Yeah.
13th reboot in the early aughts and the Nightmare reboot that they're watching on Wednesday flopped equally hard. Terrible reviews, not a
Uh,
great box office,
yeah.
and they were banking on franchise in both of those franchises. They were, Scream on the other hand bounced back. Scream had their failed reboot at the height of the reboot failure period, which is so on brand. And then they came back with the trilogy from Blumhouse. And say what you will about Blumhouse, they deliver.
Mhm.
I love a lot of their stuff. I know a lot of other people don't. I
They
love
helped
Blumhouse.
Halloween,
Yeah,
Halloween
they,
get off to a great
well,
start.
all the more
Great start,
great
not a
start, yeah, I like 1, not 2 or 3, but they
I
made
liked a lot about 2.
yeah, there's some pieces that work. I feel like you
Yeah.
could rejigger that whole trilogy and make it work in a way that makes sense, like, there's
But
enough
yeah.
there that there's enough good content, but, like, the imagine you have Halloween and then you're like, "You know what? I also wanna buy Friday the 13th, and I can afford to do it because the first Halloween made $800 million, right?" Like, there you go. You fund the studio for the next 10 years. You can pick up all these small projects like
Right.
Freaky. As they're working on a sequel to another Happy Death Day. Um,
Wow.
they just came out with that killer, Totally Killer, the one in the '80s
I
I was
still
talking about
have
last
to
week.
see that. It looks
So good.
amazing. So I just finished. We'll just talk a little bit about spooky season and things that we're watching right now. I just finished The Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix by Mike Flanagan and the Flaniverse.
Mhm.
Absolutely loved it. Like I am a big Edgar Allan Poe fan. Like I read the poems in eighth grade. I had the collected books into high school. Um, it's so creative that they name each episode after the poems, and then the deaths reflect around those poems, and it's just for a
Yeah.
literary geek, like, oh, chef's kiss, fantastic acting, Kate Siegel, Raoul Coley, Mark Hamill.
Raoul. Yeah.
Mark Hamill doing something completely different than anything else we've ever seen him do, other than the Joker, really, but,
I was gonna
honestly,
say he's doing a bad Joker.
yeah,
Um
he's just phenomenal in this. He doesn't say too much, but gets the job done. Um, I
I'm
have to
loving
I'm
the show, but I'm not done with it. I'm up to
oh, okay,
episode
I will no
5 or
spoilers, of
so.
course,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
am so excited that we're getting Mary McDonnell at our Rhode Island Comic Con. I've been a fan of hers since The Closer, Major Crimes. I not sorry guys, I'm not a Battlestar Galactica watcher. I'm sadly, I know, but I love my Major Crimes and The Closer, and she was phenomenal in that. So to see her in this and her being a badass bitch in this is just amazing, and I cannot wait to tell her. Very exciting. Oh, that's another one I heard about, John. Yeah, definitely add
Mhm.
that to the list. It's on my watch list.
Did
Haven't
we
gotten to it yet.
I think we talked about this very briefly on the last episode
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
was saying if you
we
like the
did.
movie Signs, I think it's the movie that it's the most referential to. And there's
Mhm.
another movie called Hush,
Yeah,
which of
which is
course was the
also a
no
Flanagan
dialogue.
episode. Yep,
Yeah. I will say,
perfect.
and by the way, we're going to next week is our spooky episode, our Halloween spooktacular. So we'll actually talk quite a bit about horror, I think, in
Yeah,
general, and horror
but I
within
just yeah,
Star Wars. But I'm with you that House of Usher is really exciting right now. I want to go back and rewatch Midnight Mass afterwards. It's
I'm
trending on
gonna
Netflix right now.
I didn't get to watch Hill House because I was kind of afraid.
It's
I'm a big
good.
chicken. I saw Bly Manor. I saw Midnight Mass. They were phenomenal, but I'm like really kind of terrified of Hill House. Like, and
That's the scariest one so far that I've
I
seen.
know,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I just remember like I was getting up to go to work when I worked at Target, and I was putting my shoes on, and my roommate at the time was watching it, and it's the scene with the sisters are in the car and they're arguing, and then the ghost of the sister pops out of the backseat, and I fell over while I was tying my shoes. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to be able to handle this show, so we'll see how I do because neither my
Mike
boyfriend or I
Flanagan
have
loves a
seen it.
jump scare, but he doesn't overuse them.
Right.
And his usually come with payoff. Like they're not cheap somehow. Because he's also built a good world and the actors are incredible. Like it's very,
Yeah.
I don't want to call it elevated horror because that feels very eye rolly to me.
Yeah.
But it really is. Like it's
Smart.
more elevated than like
Very
stupid
smart.
slashers. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
and
smart.
he
Very smart.
just I think they just announced that he is doing into film form another Stephen King short story.
Hmm,
I think it's called Life of Charles or something.
okay.
It's
He's
from the It Bleeds short story collection.
okay.
So
He is very good at taking source material and expanding and like sort of like remixing it, you know. There
absolutely.
there's something about people who can adapt existing works and turn them into something different. Like he slices the potato differently, right? He made that potato into a french fry. Like there's a different skill than, growing your own potato. It's a different skill set. He's very good at this. Like the way that all of these episodes tie into Poe and the way all the stories come together. My favorite one so far is the Telltale Heart episode, which I
Oh
just
my
watched.
god.
Yeah,
Okay.
without giving anything away. Like if you know the
Yeah.
story of the Telltale
If
Heart,
you
you
know the
kind of know
story,
where it's headed,
great.
but there's tension because of that, and you're like, oh, what's going to happen there? So
And you're like,
that's
how? The best part is how.
yeah,
How creative he gets with these. And the one with Kate as Camille, um, it's Murders in the Rue Morgue. And if you've read the poem or the short story, you know. But when I met Kate at HorrorCon CT, she's like, I can't give you any spoilers because my boss is right there because he was sitting next to her. She goes, but if you love Edgar Allan Poe, please read Murders in the Rue Morgue. And I was like, wait, she's there's monkeys? There's monkeys in this? And
there's
like,
monkeys. Well,
no, there's monkeys.
chimpanzees. Um,
Yeah. So phenomenal, phenomenal cast, phenomenal storytelling.
and if
Oh my
you're
god.
And if you're a
So
Star
good.
Wars fan, if you're just interested in seeing Mark Hamill do something other than Luke Skywalker, um, this is a way to see that. I think he's the only Star Wars confirmed actor in this show. Because so many people are in Star Wars now, whether it be
Yeah,
voice acting
yeah.
or small roles in all the new series. I mean, he's prominently featured. He's in, I think, every episode so far. I'll be honest, I'll say something controversial but brave. His role is kind of one note, but it's the character written that way. His name is Pym,
Yes.
and his
The
nickname is
Pim
Pym, the Pym
Reaper.
Reaper,
I
and
love
he
it.
plays it like that. So, I do think
But
if
I have to
people,
say, and I'm not
yeah,
gonna spoil it for you,
mhm,
the note changes.
yeah, it must, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's got to go on some type of arc on this show, and
Mhm.
it's good.
And he
Um,
does. And
okay,
it's oh,
curious to see where that
oh,
heads to.
and I really hope Kylie Curran does some conventions soon. I would love to add her to a Doctor Sleep poster because
Yep,
if you've watched Doctor Sleep, you know her as Abra, but she plays Lenore Usher in this one. Roderick
gotcha.
Usher's granddaughter, and she's so good in this. So good. So she's just getting better and better.
I
So
just had my sound for a second. I did hear you though.
that's
Lenore,
good.
the granddaughter, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So she's just phenomenal. She's good. Yes.
yeah,
Thank you, Mike. You
Doctor
get
Sleep.
it.
Yeah, there was someone else from Doctor Sleep in the show.
Yes. Bruce Greenwood. He was Roderick Usher.
Yeah,
He was
oh,
in
of
Doctor
course, of
Sleep.
course.
He
Yeah,
was the doctor. And then Henry Thomas, of course, as
yes,
Frederick Usher. He
yes.
was
Well, who plays
Lloyd.
Grady?
He
Yeah.
was Lloyd
Yeah.
and Jack. So he was it was great to have him back. But yes, we have virtual cantina shirts. So excited for those.
Which, by the way, this isn't a Fall the House of Usher recap show as much
Nope,
as we
but it
would
should
love it
be.
to be. Um,
It's all
we
good,
are no
Jeff.
all good. We are going to start talking about Chopper though, because I do think that we could do an entire mini series on him. and all of his nonsense. In fact, when Star Wars Explained was doing their season recaps of Rebels, one of the things they tagged at the end was essentially a Chopper kill count. And they talked about like everyone that Chopper had like either killed or attacked throughout the season. And it was sort of like a mini listicle and it became a running gag. Um, I will say his actual kill counts are quantified a little all over the place, right? Like we did some Googling beforehand and we couldn't really align on a number. There's
Yeah.
one list that says he killed over 4,000 people. And then there's another one that says it could be as high as 50,000 if you give him credit for blowing up the interdictor ship in season 2.
Right.
So 50,000 people. I mean, this is he's right behind um, Grand Moff Tarkin with Alderaan. Honestly, who we kidding?
And Jeddah and everything else.
Yeah.
Like, so honestly, I really wish, and this would be a question I would ask Dave Filoni, can we please have a definitive Chopper kill count? Because we we need to know.
Yeah.
The speculation in the video you sent me from YouTube had about, I think,
It was 4,000. They weren't counting a
403.
full crew on the interdictor. I think that's what it was because they were like, this is what we could confirm, and I was like, well, that's kind of like when you do Jason X and you don't know like how many people died in the city that exploded in space, right? And I was like, well, didn't
Yeah.
millions of people live there? Then the kill count is in the millions. It's not 12. Like these are very different numbers. So
And also, I would think if the interdictor was as operational enough to go to war against the rebellion, it's gonna be fully crewed. So
yeah, exactly.
that still only counts as one.
Oh my God, Lori. That's
Lori,
Lori, by
I
the
love
way.
it.
Yeah,
Lori, fantastic
amazing.
use of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's perfect reference right there.
Yes.
What we wanted to do though was highlight some of our favorites. So I'm gonna kind of just like sit back and let Ashley take over. And I told her I was gonna pepper in as needed. But do you have a starting point of where you wanted to like first talk about? And by the way, it doesn't need to be kills. It could just be attacks and or like favorite moments. This is also your moment in the comments for everyone. If you want to
Yes.
call out a specific
Tell
thing that you
us.
want us to talk about, now is the time because we're gonna jump all over with like all of Chopper's nonsense.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna start where Chopper meets R2 and 3PO, and him and R2 go to battle, and they just zap each other like crazy. So I'm like, oh no, this is like the dog and the cat fighting, like it's chaos. And I was like, oh my god, who's gonna win this one? Like, I was like riveted to my TV to like, these are my two favorite droids ever, like going to battle, like. But
Yeah. He messes with
eventually,
R2.
Chopper backed off, and they kind of coexisted for a little bit. But yeah, and Dave Filoni's right. If R2's a dog, then Chopper is the cat, and you got to see the dog and the cat fight for reals. Like that was
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite moments in
I
the
mean,
series.
I would have lunged for 3PO because I'm sick of his nonsense. But that's, R2 you
Yeah,
want to
you
team up with.
contacted the Empire. I'm gonna go after you. Like if Chopper had known, I guarantee you 3PO would need another memory wipe.
Dead in a ditch. There's no memory wiping. Because he doesn't take prisoners really.
No,
He likes to push people off of things too. That's like a running trope in,
like a
um,
cat.
yeah, it's and he just like knocks things into empty space or holes or whatever. Like this little listicle that we had the one YouTube video I have playing over here. It's mostly him just pushing other droids or stormtroopers into open air. That seems to be his number one trick.
Now, the one I felt the worst about is that Imperial droid that helps the rebels because he's like nervous and scared, and
Mhm.
they're like, "Oh, thank you so much for your help, thank you." And Chopper's like, there can be only one," and just boots him out of the airlock. Like
Yeah,
I
it
was
was
like,
full on Highlander right there.
You're not my parents' favorite. Get out!" Like just
Yeah.
full on boot out of the airlock, and I felt so terrible. But luckily, he landed in the grass with the low
Yeah,
cat.
he's not a confirmed
He's
kill.
okay. Not a
Yeah.
confirmed kill, but a sort of hit. Like
Yeah.
intent was there, but no confirmed kill until the low
Um,
cats get him. But
Mike is
that's
saying that his favorite moments are, I guess, less on the violent side and more times when he's saying bad words. Which, how many people in the chat have been able to translate Chopper? Because I'm pretty good at it at this point. And
Yeah.
you're right that there's a lot of WTFs in there. Like, and there are times
What
when
the
they make the
fuck?
syllables like right on with like the English that is being spoken. And I was like, what did he just call Kanan? Like, it is just wild stuff. The things that this little droid says to the
Yeah.
humans.
My favorite, actually, one of my absolute favorites was like him sassing Hera and Ahsoka. Like, did you touch my stuff? Yes, you did. Like, just the full on sass. Like,
Oh yeah. That
ugh,
whole
love it.
season 1 of him fighting with Ezra and, like, running around the Ghost, and, like, basically at one point, Ezra refers to him as a metal menace, and I'm like, it's true. It's the
It's so
kinda
true.
thing, and they end up in that little, mural that Sabine drew where they look like idiots because of Chopper. Um, that's the
And
kinda
they're
thing
just
that
like,
even within his own crew, he's causing chaos. He's just
yeah,
like, if you plotted him in the 9 box, he is chaotic good, or maybe even chaotic neutral. He's just like purely in the chaos column. And that's
oh
what
yeah,
leads to, I think, a lot of the fun that happens on the ghost ship for sure. Because even though there's like a mission and things that you need to like achieve, like to your point about the Imperial droid, that guy helped them. He pushed him out of the airlock. They could have used another droid, especially one like in Imperial deco. That way, Chopper doesn't have to get repainted every other day.
yeah. Um, Sarah, I totally agree with you. That's another one of my favorite moments is when he's just rolling through Hera's house, like setting up all the detonators and stuff, and he's like the whole time. Just loves it. Absolutely loves it. And I'm like, you're blowing up your mom's house. Like, this is where you grew up. This is where you found your family. And you're
Mhm.
just like, yes, explosions. Like, this is amazing.
It's just a
So,
location. Yeah.
yeah. And I think Chopper knows by now that home is where your family is and not the dwelling you're in. So
Yeah.
that's also the sweet side of things. So
Yeah.
causing as much chaos as possible. But I have to say, on that video, I didn't see Hera's house be included in his kill count.
I didn't see it either. This one only goes
So
up to like 4,000, so there's definitely some missing.
yeah.
Um, but that's the thing. Like some of these YouTube videos, I mean, we're trying to piece it together, and
Yeah.
Henry Gilroy is not about to put out a statement being like, "Here's the confirmed kills from Chopper."
I
Like that's
should have
not
asked
very.
him. Damn it.
Yeah. No, that but
Yeah.
Disney is never going to release that, right? So it's the kind of thing where you know,
I'll have to
um,
ask some people.
yeah. Um, John, this is a moment I thought of too. Because even when he's trying to be helpful, he's destructive. He could have killed Ezra there. I mean, they're on the Ghost in the air. Ezra's doing his, Jedi training stuff, and they're
Handstands.
throwing the stuff. Yeah, and there he goes. Ezra was not great in the beginning, but no Padawans are. It's just that he's old. He's a teenager with zero experience, so he looks like particularly clunky, kind of like Luke in A New Hope, right? When he's
Mhm.
trying to handstand for the first time, and it's like this isn't going to work.
Right.
So we're getting the clunky Ezra on top of the Ghost in the air. First of all, unsafe training grounds. What are you doing, Kanan? Like that's the kind of thing where I have a
Upping
lot
the
of issues.
ante. Get those midichlorians flowing, I
Yeah.
guess.
I think that's the same episode where they go to the temple because we're talking he says like, "Oh, I'm trying," and then Ezra's and Kanan's like, "Do or do not, there is no try." And Ezra's like, "What the hell does that mean?" Um
And he's
and
like,
they
I
have
don't know. Master
yeah.
Yoda used to say it a lot.
Yeah,
I still don't know
exactly.
what it meant.
By the end of the episode, they kind of put it to bed though, right? He's like, "We're not going to try, we're going to do." Like if you allow space
Yeah.
for the thought that you might fail by saying you're going to try, then you're not really doing it. You have to do it. He's like, "I will train you." It was
Oh,
very, and I was like, "Oh, I love the way they interpreted that because Yoda's
absolutely.
quote has always been an enigma." And then they kind of undo it in the Andor show when, like, we've talked about this. Like the thesis of that show is you must try, which is just everything about it, just like a punch to the face, which I love.
Yoda's Force Ghost is like,
Yeah, it's like son of a
seriously.
bitch. Yeah.
Another one of my favorites is when Ezra's training how to lift things, and um, S- Sabine tells Chopper to bolt himself to the floor, and he just tries to lift him, and he's just like laughing the whole time with Sabine because he can't lift him. He's like, that droid's bolted to the floor, and it's so funny. It just
There's a lot of
making
humor with Chopper. They use him for comic effect really really effectively, especially when they paint him in Imperial colors. His
right
black and red designs, what were there was at least 3 designs that I remember,
and
because one, he
yellow.
had, like, the big pointy kinda headpiece. It was, like, kinda like Minister Tua's little, like, assistant over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, you can tell from Chopper's chuckling, it's important that you enjoy your work. Yes, Chopper life lessons, John. Definitely. Um, Another one of my favorites was just the Imperial droid, I guess on Lothal, who was trying to like get them out of the underground hole and stuff that they were hiding in and stuff. And Chopper just like boots him back down the hole, like this
Yep.
is Sparta. Just
It's
like
very
no,
that.
no, or this is Lothal, like just back in the hole. So he's really good at booting people out of
Mhm.
things.
He electrocutes that droid first. That's in the video
Yeah,
over here. We should put this link in the chat. Let me do
yeah.
that.
Let's do
Hopefully
that.
this doesn't like destroy everything. Um, oh wait, I have 2 different screens open.
You're like the multimedia man over here.
Yeah, it's dumb. I will pull it up on YouTube over here and type it into the chat. Do do do
Now,
do 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 do.
yes, thank you, Sherry. I agree. Um, she says one of my favorite moments was at the end of Ahsoka when Ezra comes back and Chopper knew it was him, and you can make out Chopper saying, "Is it really you?" Even though they bickered a lot, I felt like Chopper was happy to see Ezra. Yeah, he was the only one that knew. Like, and that's why Hera was just like, "Wait," like she knows Chopper doesn't go up to just anybody. So that was a really sweet moment, and I was so glad that they got to do that.
Yeah, I also I realized for storytelling effect why he had on his stormtrooper helmet and all of that, but like you needed to call ahead of time, being like, "Hey, it's me," and my helmet's off. Like, what's happening here? Like, I just feel like that's the kind of stuff that I'm sure there's an in-universe answer, but from or production,
Maybe he's like,
like
"I wanted to surprise them."
I don't know. You're gonna
But
get
you
shot,
don't do
man.
that in the
Yeah,
time of
I,
war,
that's the
Ezra.
kind of
Come
thing
on.
that breaks my brain, and I'm like, it's we suspend a lot of disbelief, but I don't like to, you know, I don't wanna have to pretend that, I don't wanna have to see characters behave stupidly, and then I have to, like, mental gymnastics my way around it, like, that's not fun. Like, I'm
Right.
fine with, like, the space wizards and the floating and the flying and the magic, but, like, don't act like an idiot.
Yeah, take time. Um, let's see. Who else we got? Okay, so Sarah says in Stealth Strike, it's not a kill, but him tattling on Ezra by replaying the video of him shooting Kanan and Rex is hilarious. Yes. Oh my god. Like it's us. Like, as disguised as stormtroopers, like Chopper was just ready to like be like, look what he did. See, he's a danger to everybody. Like nobody knows danger to everybody than Chopper. So that was a really cool one. John says when he first meets AP5 and attacks the Imperial officer. Yeah, that was so good. Just slapping him around with his hands. And
He and
the fact,
AP5 are a good foils for each other.
yeah, they're like the antithesis to R2 and 3PO. Like just like this super emo Alan Rickman s
Mhm.
droid and the crazy cat droid. So it works so well, so well, and I
Yeah,
I,
'cause
I want to see
AP5
more of
is
that actually.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean,
Yeah.
the reason they work so well is Chopper being so chaotic, and then AP5 being so rules focused creates like immediate.
Morose.
Yes, the low energy, just like everything is a problem, very dismissive, and then Chopper's like, wow, like full chaos. Um, that combo, and we just watched it recently in the Warhead episode, which was one of my
Yeah,
favorites. The 2 of them together on screen, I could just watch the 2 of them go on adventures together, which wasn't always true in the Clone Wars when they would put R2-D2 with someone. Like, I didn't like a lot of those sort of like there's a whole arc of just like droids missing on some planet. I was like, what are we doing here? We are running out of
I
ideas.
know. Oh,
But you know what it is? The Clone Wars are only 2 years long, and there are only so many characters, and they needed to get like other locations and other plot to happen. So they're like, oh, send R2 or someone else, right? We need one character to latch on to. It'll then show us some new characters. Here
right.
on Rebels, like we got to live in real time, and every season was a year. We had a lot of time to breathe, and there's more adventures you could stuff in there. There's nothing else you could stuff into the Clone Wars. We're out of days.
Yeah,
Sorry, it's
everything's
like
like
chaos in the kitchen over here. There's like a sink thing happening, and the cats are bothering Jason, of course. So
Oh, poor
yeah,
crazy kitties. Jason,
yeah,
run.
yeah, exactly.
um. Okay. Let's see. Another good episode of Chopper is again like he gets a hold of some information. Actually, yeah, the episode where he gets possessed by the Imperial information, like the Lobot people, as I like to call them.
Hmm.
And Josh Gad is the main one, and he kind of almost accidentally, against his will, spoils their base location, and it's such a crazy episode to me because Chopper doesn't always fail at something. Like if he's got a mission, he does it, and the fact that he was, hacked and going against his own family, like it was a testament to them on how well they knew him and his normal manner and his normal way of speaking um enough to know that there was something wrong and get to the bottom of it quickly before it ended up ruining the base location. Like that episode was really fun and very Chopper centric, and it's what happens when your droid gets hacked.
Yeah, it's a really good one. And Josh Gad's terrific. He plays the controller. So this
Mhm.
is from season 3, episode 19. So pretty deep into the season. And we've
Right.
talked a lot about how like season 3 is like pretty bleak. This one also has a heavy kill count because he blows up the ship with Josh Gad on it.
Yeah, takes out all the Imperials on that ship as well as, the information
Mhm.
crew.
This
Um,
is also the episode where AP5 is drifting in space and singing. So a lot happens in this
so
episode.
good.
It's the kind of thing where people remember these moments from throughout the series and like, oh right, what's that from? And it's like, okay, AP5 singing in space, Chopper becoming he's the double agent droid. That's the name of the episode, double agent
Mhm.
droid, getting taken over by the Imperials. Josh Gad doing the comptroller. Hera's the one who really takes him on. It's like Hera and the comptroller is a financial thing. The controller um, and then the ship being blown up at the end. Like this is a lot, and it's really bleak. Like it's another bleak one, and all those people die. So, um,
And the
you
sad
know,
part
season
is
3.
when they pick up AP5 and he's like, "Oh no!" And Chopper's just
He
like,
just
"What?
wanted to
What?
stay
What?"
wandering around in space. I don't think he's doing the math though on the fact that he needs to like re-energize. Like he's just gonna die out there.
Yeah, no
Like
one's there to
he wouldn't
plug
have
you in,
lasted
buddy.
long. Yeah,
No.
exactly. You need to rest and get some oil. Um,
Ugh.
Yeah, that's another I almost feel like so here's the thing, on Rebels Revisited, we've watched a lot of episodes, and of course we revisit them as they were. Do we need to start rewatching episodes? Because like I feel like I want to go back to some of these, especially now that the
Yeah.
Ahsoka show has happened. We're still making our way through, by the way.
Oh
Like we
yeah.
still have some season 2 left to do and season 4, but 1 and 3 are fully covered. Like we've covered the entirety of season 1 and the entirety of season 3.
Yeah. The fact that we've come so far in 71 episodes is just like insane to me. So,
It's wild. Yeah.
and we still have more to talk about.
Yeah, we do. We sure do. And we have fun stuff like this. Um, we're also, yeah, we're going to just keep rewatching Sarah until they boot us from the network. That'll be the real plan. Um, but we're going to do more stuff like this too, where we're trying to figure out who our next like best of is going to be sometime in, there'll be a November one for sure.
Yeah,
After
absolutely.
we make it through the spooktacular, because that'll be really fun. We'll talk a lot more horror in that one. So yeah, if there are people that you want us to cover next, Zeb won the fan vote by like
Yeah.
a ginormous margin too. I guess it's the kind of
Yes.
thing where he's so underappreciated that everyone was like, we need to talk about Zeb. Because I think
Show him
everyone
some
loves
love.
Kanan, everyone loves Ezra, but like not enough people love Zeb, and so everyone was like, "Bam, we need some Zeb."
Like I get it. CGI is expensive and effects are expensive, but oh my god, like you did like an entire episode of reanimating stormtroopers. Like you can't give us
Mhm.
them for like a hot minute.
Yeah, they're holding it right.
Ugh.
I thought we were gonna see him though. I mean, I'm with you, Sarah. Like, I wanted him to be there. But I also thought we were gonna get an entire reunion. They're clearly saving that for whatever comes next. Um, I do think it's weird that we started with Sabine and Ahsoka in the main galaxy, and Thrawn and Ezra in the other galaxy, and we've just switched, right? Like, what are we doing here? And I I want to say that I trust Dave Filoni. I'm very nervous about what this movie is going to be, and if it doesn't include Ahsoka, because my other concern is Ahsoka's not in the sequel trilogy. So is she going to be stuck out in on Peridia for the next 30 years along with Sabine? And you know what I mean? Like, there's just too many things that you can extrapolate in a negative way
Yeah.
based on the way that we left it. Like, and honestly, if we're gonna go up against Grand Admiral Thrawn in some big movie, I want Sabine there. I want Ahsoka there. I want the entire Rebels crew, including Zeb, including Callus. You kind of have to get the band back together
Yeah,
with
I don't want to
Mando.
just see them in sorry, the Phantom. Oh, maybe the Phantom too, but also like the Ghost. I just don't want to see the Ghost floating around. Like I get it, and see Chopper wheelie by. Like I want to see some stuff.
Yeah,
So
some real
I'm
substance there.
I'm looking forward to anything and everything with that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah,
unless they had something planned for Zeb and Polly, Paul Sun and Lee. I
yeah.
was calling Polly, but um, but it would be
Rangers.
exciting.
Yeah.
They have to retool that. Like Paulie is so good, and
And now that we've
he's the
seen,
glue that holds all the
mhm,
Mandoverse, for lack of a better term, together, and
mhm.
um, he handles his business, and he holds Chopper back. Also, Chopper's greatest hits. Chopper
Yeah.
was
Oh, yeah.
about to make
Oh,
Kaz Shono an orphan.
yeah. Exactly. Oh,
That was
Kaz.
about to happen, my friends.
Yeah.
Um,
So Kazuda Xiono, the lead in Resistance, his dad is Senator Xiono,
jerk, jerk
from
face.
the Ahsoka show, and oh man, is he the villain of villains? And you have to wonder now, is he in cahoots with the Imperials or the First Order? Because as we know, he survives the attack on Hosnian Prime. Did he
He
have
and his
insider
family
info?
weren't on
He wasn't
Hosnian
there.
Prime.
Yeah. And they never resolved that because Resistance got canceled. So I don't know if we'll ever find out the answer to that. But that's another mystery that I think that, like, how Star Wars asks us or opens up a lot of questions and then leaves us wondering on a lot of stuff. I think things like that they should answer because I
Oh
think it's a
yeah,
very simple question, and they can easily solve it. And it would be nice for us to know about the character, and I think it would be a good thing to know if like Kaz's dad was like truly a villain. I think that's something that is important to know.
yeah,
I
that
think
would
we
have
could
been so
speculate for a
cool.
long time, but now that the show is over, closure is needed. There are other more grandiose big questions like what is the meaning of the Force? And how is it wielded and all of that stuff that I think they should continually present new things to make us question and explore and have these kinds of videos where we discuss like the unifying force like can only exist in a universe where they're constantly throwing weird stuff at us and we need to ask questions, right?
Yeah,
Where they're not
absolutely.
explaining it all, where there's room for interpretation. But I really want to know if Kaz's dad is a villain, and I think I think they will tell us as well. I think we're going to find out in whatever this next movie is. Yeah, Senator Jerkface, Jerky McJerkface over there. Yeah.
The fact that Mon Mothma was so careful when she was talking to Hera shows
Hmm.
that he cannot be trusted. Um,
Yeah, pull up some
sh
dirt on him. What are we doing
yeah,
here? We should be, when they say like, what is it? When they go low, we go high. Look, when they go low, I go lower. All right, that's the only answer to that. So,
absolutely.
yeah,
Um, so I have to say it's not quite a hit, but
yeah,
it's probably my favorite, one of my favorites, and it just goes to show you how devious and slightly insane Chopper is. Um, the episode Twilight of the Apprentice Part 1, where he is in the TIE fighter. Chopper is escaping attack from the Eighth Brother, and he has got himself into a TIE fighter, and suddenly it becomes a video game, and he's got his little hands, and he's got the controls, and he's blasting the crap out of the Eighth Brother. He could have died, but honestly, his life was spared by Kanan and Ahsoka. They captured him alive, but man, Chopper was coming for blood. He was gunning for him. It was it was about to be chaotic death for the Eighth Brother, which obviously we know that Maul took care of him later. But
yes.
yeah, so
We didn't see his body, but I'll tell you now, if he shows up alive, I'll kill someone because death has to start meaning something again in Star Wars, and that's been missing for a little while. For anyone who's been with us for a while now, we did a listicle of our favorite Inquisitor moments back when the Obi-Wan Kenobi show first started, and
yeah,
we're like, let's do our favorite. moments with the fifth brother, sixth brother, seventh sister. Like, let's compile it
Ramita.
together. And
Yeah.
Ashley's number one. Tell everyone what your number one
That
was.
was my number 1, and it honestly, it was completely, like, more like Chopper's greatest moment than Eighth Brother's greatest moment, but oh my god, like, you can brag to your friends that you survived C110P.
Yeah,
It's it counts for
get a little
something,
sticker.
right?
Yeah,
I survived, like, yeah, so and we need that on a shirt. I survived C110P.
yeah, I agree with that.
With the Inquisitor lightsaber, we can do that because technically you did, even if you died by Darth Maul, but yeah.
I will say, like, Chopper holds his own, right? Because even when he's flying the Phantom or the Ghost, he's taking out Tie fighters, and that's
He's
you'll see it
plugged
all
into
in.
the guns
Yeah,
when he has
the
to.
the link to the YouTube video that I put up earlier is the one that has just the 4,000 kills. But it doesn't. What's missing is it doesn't show you like season, like episode titles, like what season and what episode the item is from. But it does give like a substantial clip to show what happened. He's done a couple of tricks a few times where it's like usually pushing people into holes and things, but he's also like launched people into space. He likes the gravity, like messing with gravity is a thing for him, especially being a droid where he can fly or magnetize. So he pushed some stormtroopers out of an airlock. Like he's done a bunch of that kind of stuff. And then with the interdictor, he like reversed all the gravity wells or something, and it exploded the ship. You're saying it created like a mini black hole or something. Like
Yeah.
that is like a
Oh.
full on war crime. It's awesome. It's tremendous.
There's no way that kill count is that low.
No,
I'm
um,
sorry. Like,
yeah,
while I agree with many in that video, like, yeah, that's entirely plausible. I don't think it stops at 4,000. And you have to think of how long Chopper has been doing this. Like,
that's the thing. We've only
honestly,
been following his adventures for these couple of seasons since Ezra joined, but he's been Spectre 4. No, he's 3. He's Spectre 3
3.
or he's 4.
Yep. He's
He's 3.
3.
Okay.
Yep.
Spectre 3 for a long time. And the Spectre should be Spectre 1 should be Hera. Spectre
It
2
is.
should be Chopper. Spectre 3 should be Kanan. Spectre 4 should be Sabine. Spectre 5 should be Zeb. And 6 should be Ezra. So a few of the numbers are correct, but at the beginning
Yeah.
it's not. Because Kanan is Spectre 1 and Hera's Spectre 2 and Chopper's
Yeah.
Spectre 3. Like it's all a little bit wrong.
I think it's off. So I think it goes in the order in which they were found or they joined the crew. So why Chopper is number 3, I don't know. I just chalk it up to him being a droid and not being able to
Probably.
go as undercover as, say, Kanan. So it's been Hera, Kanan, and Chopper since they were
And
teenagers.
was it Kanan's ship or is it Hera's ship? I thought it was hers, right?
It's her ship, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's her ship. She's 1, and I think because
She's
no,
not 1. Kanan's 1. That's what I mean. I think she should be 1,
oh
right?
yeah, she should be 1.
Yeah.
She is Spectre too. So honestly, yeah, yeah, yeah.
See, it doesn't make sense. I think that they just messed it up when they create, and there's no good in-universe answer. They were like, "Oh, put the male Jedi in the one spot," and
I think that's exactly it. But to
yeah.
have Zeb be Spectre 4 because he joined before they found Sabine,
Mhm.
and then Sabine obviously is Spectre 5. She's got the
Yep.
5 on
Oh,
her
you're right.
shoulder,
That's the what it's 4 and yeah, that
and
makes
then
sense.
um, Ezra is
6.
Spectre 6. So
And then is AP5 Spectre 7? No. No, Spectre 7 is Jason. They never made him a
yeah.
Spectre. Yeah. So, and now we have Spectre 20 something or whatever it was on Lothal and Rebels in
Oh
Rebels
my
season
god.
5 in the
Okay,
Ahsoka
so
show.
I was
Yeah.
so mad about that. I'm sorry. I just like I feel like the Spectre should only count for those on the Ghost. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I
Or if
I'm
you've
not going to
been
fight you
on the
on that.
Ghost,
Yeah.
it should only account as such. But you can't be like a random, X-wing fighter pilot and
Mhm.
be a Spectre. Like
In
no.
theory, they're
Mm-mm.
defending Lothal,
Like
right?
yeah, and I
So,
get it. They're flying
I
in
guess.
Hera's squadron. That's probably what she calls her squadron because
Yep.
the original Spectres are kind of scattered to the wind right now. So it gives her something to just kind of have a call sign for. I
Yeah.
get it. I totally get it. However, it just feels so wrong. Like it's just
I agree. It's something that could have been really special for them. I think we're out of synonyms for Ghost though, because Ghost, Phantom, and Spectre, I'm all out of other options. So if there was like yet
spooky.
another word, hmm?
Spook? Spooky?
Well, yeah, spook or something, right? Like, you would need another designation. I think, to keep it in like the ghost apparition, something like that.
Phantasm. There we go.
Yeah, there
Thank
you
you,
go. It's
Mike.
close to Phantom, but yeah, like that idea is doable. But they clearly just wanted a reference. I think there was a lot of Easter
Spirit.
eggs for the sake of
Yeah.
Easter eggs. Oh, I like Spirit. Um,
Poltergeist.
like yeah, I think there were some of those that. Oh my god, the poltergeists. That would be really fun. Uh, Easter eggs for the sake of there being Easter eggs. Like that's a good example of that in the Ahsoka show, right? I was like, those fighters didn't need to be called specters, and if anything, they just made our ears go up like Scooby Doo style, but like not in a great way.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
night terror, also that, yeah, my nightmares. Um, we'll be talking nightmares on Wednesday on
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake.
Woo!
I
Yes.
can't imagine how bad. I mean, the movie's terrible, right? And these boys don't pull their punches. What are they going to say on that show? Because it's just not a good movie. But is it so bad that it's good? Can it be entertaining to watch, or are you just going to
Um,
scream it? I hated it. I thought it was like
is it a future Joe Bob's Last Drive-In
no, I
entry?
don't think that it's not so bad that it's good because there are cheesy B movies out there. This movie's
Yeah.
trying to be serious. It was trying to add like some real context there where I think at one point was Freddie not guilty actually? I actually also was he a child molester, which I always okay, so question to the group, just to take a quick left turn for a second regarding Nightmare on Elm Street. Um, in the original, he haunted kids in their dreams, but before as a spirit, right? But the way it started was that he murdered some children, and then the parents of Elm Street, I guess this one street, I don't know how many kids are on this one street that like to me it should be a neighborhood, like street versus neighborhood. Anyway, the parents burned him alive because the court didn't find him guilty, even though there was all this overwhelming evidence that he was a child murderer. But was he just a child murderer or was he a child molester? I always thought that it was presumed that he was also a child molester, not just a child murderer. But apparently that's not something that was prevalent everywhere. And I don't think it was ever like officially canonical. But in the
Yeah, I
new
don't think
movie,
Wes
in the remake,
Craven made it that way. Yeah.
probably not. But I feel like at this point now we're talking 40 years. Has that been accidentally baked into some of the discussion, or have we extrapolated? It's
Mm.
all over the remake though. And they really like dive into that. That movie is like as serious as a heart attack, but it's also like joyless and just like dark. And it's very oddies, right? So like I think the thing about like horror from the 2010s, it's gonna be remembered for crappy remakes that take the source material way too seriously because everyone who grew up with it, like the 80s and 90s stuff, our age, reveres it in a way that's actually detrimental to the long-term success of the property. And you can see it play out in other places too. You can argue the same is a little bit true at Star Wars, but it's true for like most like major franchises that when you're on your second or third generation of people like who now have the keys to the car, they're almost like too referential about it. Like one of the big complaints about Ghostbusters Afterlife was like we have to rely on everything built from the original Ghostbusters, the proton packs, like the uniforms, the firehouse, Ecto 1, all of these things that we are
The original
revering. Like,
Ghostbusters, yeah,
yeah, it's like
themselves.
we're building entire scenes to like flipping the switch and driving the car and being like, hey, do you remember this thing that was so cool? It's
Member
that.
berries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that as opposed to creating something new that will impact the culture. Because when
I think
Ghostbusters
it's
was made, right,
yeah.
like they needed a car, they needed a weapon to fight the ghosts, and they needed a uniform. And they made those things and they weren't treated as like these moments, these like needle drop moments in the movie where it's like, oh, here's our proton packs and here's our uniform and we're zipping up the uniform. It was all just like part of the experience. And then after the fact, people started treating these artifacts as like bigger than the franchise itself.
Right.
Actually watched a whole YouTube video on this, and they're saying like this is everything wrong with Afterlife, right? And it's just like
Right, but the same can
worshiping
be
the
said
stuff.
same can be said with The Force Awakens. Like, "Oh my
Totally,
god,
yeah,
it's Luke
yeah,
Skywalker's lightsaber," and, "Oh my god, it's Han Solo," and, "Oh my god, it's the Millennium Falcon."
yep,
And, it's too on the
yeah.
nose. And Princess Leia. Yeah, it's
Agreed.
it's kinda
Yeah,
like that.
I'm with you on
And to
that. I
an
think the
extent,
people who
Rogue
dislike
One.
Force Awakens, that's what they
Yeah.
would say, right?
And now I loved Force Awakens, obviously, because it
I
was
liked it too.
just enough member berries, but it, it gave my girl Ray you know,
I
a
thought it was
story.
subversive.
Yeah.
I like that it left turned us. It swerved us. I hate that word, but like it swerved us a couple times. They killed Han Solo. They
Ugh.
pulled the switch of like Finn sort of being the secret Jedi, and then it was Rey. The fact that Kylo is Han and Leia's kid, as opposed to like Luke
I
and
got punched so hard by my friend Ashley. I saw The Force Awakens with uh, at first. I went to an early showing and then I picked her up and went back to the theater to see it again and I didn't say anything in the car. I didn't even say how good or bad it was. I just let her make her own opinion. And then as soon as like the lightsaber reignites through Han Solo's chest, she's like,
yeah.
"Ah!" Like she made this horrible noise and then she punched me as hard as she could in my arm.
hmm
I still have the bruise. Like I'm obviously exaggerating, but it just I was like, "Oh, I didn't want to ruin it
It's a
for you."
moment. I mean,
Yeah.
it. As a licensee, we obviously didn't know that was going to happen, but there are times when you can
Wow.
feel in the air like what's happening and what's and we're like, Han's not making out of this movie. Also, Ray seems to be really, really important. Also, Kylo Ren is definitely a child of someone, and it's probably Han and Leia. Like we pieced together, oh,
Oh yeah.
Captain Phasma's a woman. Like we
Yeah.
figured this stuff out in the early days of product planning. Um, but they kept a lot from us, and we really were like, "Where are the images of Luke?" And
Oh,
it's like, "Is Luke
yeah.
in this movie?" And he's not. Like, he's not in this movie. He's the MacGuffin of the movie, which is a little disappointing, I think, for a lot of people. But then he gets like a lot of screen time in The Last Jedi, and so I feel
Which
like what you, yeah, he's
I
amazing.
love.
Mark Hamill's amazing in The Last Jedi, by the way. I love that movie. I think he's excellent in it. I think that that's probably going to be the standout performance of his career. It's not Fall of the House of Usher, but he's fine in that. That is, I like the show. He's not the thing that sells it for me. But I love Last Jedi. I'm with you, Mike. Team Last Jedi.
Yes.
Um,
Yes,
I will
Jeff.
say the thing that Last Jedi also does really well is they tell you not to
Yes,
revere the
Sarah.
nonsense, right?
Yeah.
Like when he
There's
flips away
more
the
to this
lightsaber.
universe than the Skywalkers.
Yeah. And the crap
Anybody
they
can
left
have the
behind.
Force.
And then we go right back to it in episode 9 where we're revering the nonsense again. So, um I I think that fandom's complicated, and I think more than anything, we want to be smart and self-referential, and also create our own new stuff. I think like Scream is trying to do this in the horror space right now. Scream 5 was basically the Force Awakens, Scream the Force Awakens, right? If we think of
I still have questions about it, but it's just
yeah. So the original so here's what's so interesting about Scream. The first Scream dissected 80 slashers and did it like in a way that no one could have predicted, and it was a ginormous hit. Bam. And then it
and it
comes
was
back
very
and
like kind of to the extent where it was self-deprecating because it's Wes
yeah,
Craven making this movie, and
yeah.
they're throwing it back to his previous movies
Oh
that
yeah,
have
Halloween
become
like plays on the TV throughout the entire party scene. The
yeah,
whole speech is in front of Jamie Kennedy screaming at the TV, "Turn around, Jamie." I mean, it's a kind of moment that you like. It's just brilliant. I love Scream. It's my all-time favorite horror movie.
it's
Scream
crazy.
2 is an excellent sequel and dissects sequels. And then Scream 3 talks about movie production and the inner workings of Hollywood. And that was really the end of the series. And we never thought it was coming back after that because it was post Columbine. It needed to pull back. The Scream 3 actually had to like pull back all of its gore for the most part. They rewrote the script multiple times because of all the leaks and because of Columbine and everything else. And
Right,
then
right.
long break. And then Scream 4 comes out at the height of 80s and 90s horror reboots and fails as a reboot the same way Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, which you'll hear about on Wednesday, failed as a reboot, along with a bunch of other franchises that equally failed to regain their relevance, which was perfectly on brand, and I loved it. I love Scream 4. I think it's a brilliant movie. And then Scream 5 comes out, and they title it Scream, and they just like Halloween is Halloween, right? It's a legacy sequel, and they tackle legacy sequels, and they call out Star Wars in a huge way. They talk about like The Force Awakens, and that movie, you watch it back, it's not just talking about Halloween. It is basically the horror version of The Force Awakens, like beat for beat. From the death of Han to the death of Dewey, like it goes beat for beat.
Okay, how pardon my French. how the fuck did a girl who's 100 pounds soaking wet be able
Mhm,
to kill and lift a grown man with a knife?
mhm.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
sorry. I don't
Well,
like it.
so this is the thing that Scream
Sorry.
this is the thing that Scream I think breaks. Like, there's no good. There's a production answer, but there's no good in universe answer. So
So
in
pissed about that.
universe,
So pissed.
um, so in production, it's the same stunt guy who's in the costume,
All the time.
regardless
Yeah.
of the actor who's supposed to be the killer. And because they don't like they just want to have they don't want to give you any clues as to who the killer is. So they always put a 5'10" guy, like or 5'11", like a pretty tall, broad-shouldered man in the suit. And that's true in Screams 1, 2, 3, and 4. It was actually the same stunt guy, and they got new stunt guys starting in 5 and 6 because so much time had gone by. I've watched a lot of behind the scenes on this crap,
Oh yeah.
and it's the kind of thing where like um it the woman who had so not to give away one of the killers in Scream 5 is a girl who's very small in stature and is nothing like the stunt actor would be.
None.
Um, other than the unmasking scene, it's always a stunt guy of the same build, and they don't answer in universe how that can be,
It's
but
very Scooby Doo. Like
a little bit, yeah.
it's oh, you have this giant, really tall ghost, and Fred takes off the mask, and it's old lady Jenkins.
Oh, of course,
No.
yeah.
And she's small, and it's just I don't know. So that suffered from Scooby Doo syndrome from me, and also
No, understandable.
you
I think the
effing killed
only
Dewey. Like it's
Yeah. The only good answer is
bad.
that usually the person who's in the scream suit is wearing a really sizable pair of boots, which often has lifts. And there's usually like shoulder pads built into the suit itself has some like a stab vest and other things in there usually, like because you need to be able to like not get injured. But they get the shit beat out of them every single one of the ghost faces, which at this point none of them are alive. Every ghost face has been killed in theory. I do think that Matthew Lillard's character of Stu is still out there and didn't originally die. They keep teasing how they're going to bring him back, and that was going to be the original plot for part 3. But they felt that, again, Columbine, he and the other original killer, the two of them together were just too much like the pair from real life Columbine. So they're like, we're not bringing
Yeah.
Matthew Lillard back. And then in part 4, the reboot, they were already bringing back Sydney and Dewey and everyone else. And then in 5, they were going to set up they had to bring back Billy. So then 6, everyone thought it was going to be about Stu, but they just planted a seed about Stu potentially being alive because I think in 7, it's finally going to happen. So my suspicion is that Matthew Lillard will be pulling the strings with a cult of ghost faces in Scream 7.
Oh,
Th-
okay. I'll take
there
your
was a
word for it.
there was a TV show called
I
Cult
haven't seen
something or whatever, and
the
it was
5th one yet.
basically the spec script of what Scream would have been if it went down the cult route.
Right.
So yeah.
I haven't seen Scream 6 yet, so, I did see Scream 5, obviously, and, yeah, I haven't seen
Yeah.
the New York one, so
Meanwhile, we have a whole side conversation happening with it in the chat about
yes!
Jiffy Pop.
Jiffy
Maybe
Pop!
we'll make some Jiffy Pop for our spooktacular next week. One of the things I would
Excellent.
ask for anyone in the group who's coming back next week, as we do our little spooktacular, think about what your favorite horror moments are in the Star Wars franchise. Like, there's a few off the top of my head that I know we're going to cover. We're going to talk about the big spiders. Those things scare the f out of me. Like, I don't like those things. I don't like spiders. I don't especially don't want giant spiders.
I
I'm
don't
more
want
afraid of them than the
cute,
wolves or anything.
innocent little baby Grogus eating their eggs and
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
oh. Also, like, I have to say one of my favorite, like, scary moments and probably very alien-esque that we've seen a lot in Star Wars happened in Resistance, and it's with the Kowakian monkey lizards and Poe
Oh,
Dameron. Monkeys!
yeah.
I hate monkeys! Like, that's what
Yeah.
he gets to. So,
I think
yeah.
the Rancor is really scary too.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
So the ice spiders, the Night Sisters possession,
Yeah, we're gonna
and
talk
their
about a bunch of
spooky
that stuff.
spells. Oh, so we're gonna talk about all of that next week
Mhm.
on our Halloween spooktacular. It's gonna be
And
super exciting.
Mike, if you're going to be live in the chat with us,
Oh
if you have
yeah,
some good
please.
moments from the books, let us know because
Absolutely.
the books, it's easier I think for books to not be scary, right? There aren't jump scares and visual things to like really hit you. But The
No, but
Shining
it
is a
like
terrifying book.
it
So like,
puts it in your
yeah,
head. And the same thing with Doctor Sleep. Like the stuff it puts in your head, like ugh. And Joe Hill is also notorious for, like, his father, Stephen King, for setting up the visual mindscape
Yeah.
for terrifying things, like his, um, Nosferatu and Horns and, his short story books, 20th Century Ghosts, with it's got the black phone in it, like, the black phone especially is, like,
Mhm.
terrifying, especially if you have children, like, it's just
Yeah, I can't
crazy.
imagine.
So, yeah, definitely think about what your favorite spooky moments in Star Wars, all of Star Wars books, comics. If you want to get into like tales from Vader's castle, like that'd be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Wampa. Oh my God, the Wampa. I would not watch Star Wars for so long when I was little because I was terrified of the Wampa
The Wampa is really scary.
because of the blood. Like he like gets his arm cut off, but
He
he's
is
just like
eating yeah, it's
he's
ugh.
eating things, there's lots of bones around, like, "Oh my god, Luke's next!" Like, I was so scared. So, yeah, that's a personal, like, beef for me. That one and Ponda Baba. Actually,
Ponda Baba
he
is creepy.
he really scared me. So, yeah, tell us what freaked you out in Star Wars. It's just favorite scary moments, characters that you were just like, "Oh," when you saw him for the first time. Um, Please share that with us next week.
Oh, Mike, that is a perfect moment to reference the cave on Dagobah where Luke has to confront Vader. That
Oh,
was
yes.
horrifying because I watched that as a kid and I was like, "What's going on?" Like he's on the planet, like it's supposed to be the light side of the Force, basically, and then you end up in the cave and you got to confront the dark side. That's a moment. I mean, Reyes is nowhere near as scary when she ends up like, seeing the dark version of herself. Like nothing can top
Although
that
I
cave
did jump.
moment. Yeah, it's a good jump scare. It's just not like it's legitimately scary that Vader's like coming at him. Like Vader's also just so intimidating. And there's actually some great rebel scenes where Vader first popping up and Kanan and Ezra are like, do you feel that it's cold? Like when he first shows up and it looks like he's gonna slice Ezra with his own lightsaber just by using the Force. That's some scary stuff. They do a really good job of
Yeah.
making Vader very intimidating in
He
Rebels.
is not above killing younglings, just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, ugh. Um, Star Wars is bleak, even though it's a kid's property, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think that, like, this is a good I always talk about how Scooby-Doo is an entryway to horror. Star Wars is kinda your entryway to war movies and an understanding that, like, things don't always end on a happy note, right? Like, if
No.
you watch episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, like, that is terrible. It ends in, like, horrible, horrible tragedy, and there were probably, like, nine-year-olds going to that movie being like, "Ooh, Darth Vader." Like, it brings you in and then you understand a lot of bad things happen and there's not a lot you can do about it sometimes. It's just fiction can help us understand how to navigate real world things, kind of what I'm getting at. I think Star Wars actually does that very well.
It
um,
does.
Sometimes a little heavy handed way. Rebels in particular, especially because it's really aimed at kids, the lessons are almost sledgehammer-esque, which is fine by me. I don't
Yeah.
have a problem with that. I
It
think the more
grew
people
with
can
its
understand it, the better.
audience. Yeah.
That too. Yeah, it progressed in age, much like the Harry Potter books, even though we don't really talk about those anymore. You can see they went from this to this, like, and got more complicated. Rebels does a lot of that from season 1 to season 4. It feels like a very different show.
Also, I have to say, probably one of my favorite, tied for my favorite Chopper moments as far as like being sweet. We don't get to
Mhm.
see Chopper be absolutely sweet very often. So the episode on Chopper Base where like Ezra's feeling pretty like overwhelmed and stuff, and he just has the mission and he feels like he failed. And the whole crew just puts their hands on his shoulders and like they're comforting. And Chopper puts his little claw on Ezra's back, and I was like, oh, he meant
Yeah.
it. Like it's come a long way from him bashing him with a wrench, trying to like
Oh, yeah.
hang it on top of his dome there. Um, Also like the scene where Hera's in mourning. Like she's holding on to her Calicori. She's got Kanan's hair, Kanan's mask, and Kanan's lightsaber kind of like set up where he left it. And she's holding the Calicori and she's crying in the cave. And Chopper's holding her hand. Like he feels it too. Like as much as Chopper has his his favorites. Like he's very selective in who he lets in his life. Like I
Hmm.
feel like Kanan was his dad, and it's sad. It's really a
Yeah.
sad
Well, he
Chopper
spent
moment.
years with them because
Yeah.
he's with we. So for anyone who might not realize this, Chopper and Hera are prominently featured in 2 episodes of The Bad Batch. So if you're not watching Bad Batch, maybe you watched part of season 1 and like me
Trundle
abandoned
through
ship.
yes,
Yeah,
emotional support murder drone.
yeah.
Yes, trundle through season 1, watch the Kanan episode in episode
Mhm.
1, watch, Hera's and the rest of the Syndulla family on Ryloth's episode.
Yep.
I
Cham
don't know if
Syndulla is sort
Cham's
of
in
the
there.
focus of that because
So
he's a Clone Wars character. If people forget, every now and then,
and
I
you get to
even
meet
I forget.
Eleni,
Yeah.
her mother, so,
Yep.
you definitely get to see Hera and Chopper start and Hera fulfilling her dream to become a pilot. But also read John Jackson Miller's book with Kanan and Hera. Not so much Chopper, which is kind of sad, but definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, there's definitely some supplemental content on Chopper. For me, like I love his humor stuff. Like I think that Rebels does humor better than most other parts of Star Wars. And every time he's like cursing about something or causing some type of chaos, fighting with other members of the ship, like especially training with Ezra. Like it was mentioned earlier in the chat about the throwing stuff at him and he falls off the top of the ghost. That stuff's just funny.
And
And I
bolting to the
enjoy that.
floor, yeah.
Yeah, and pushing everyone. I just like when he put like it's very much like a cat, just pushing things off of things into holes, into airlocks, into space. Like
Ouch
that
space.
stuff's just funny to me. So I'm all into it. I take Star Wars very seriously, but I really enjoy the humorous parts as well. I
Because
think
it's
they are
something that
just
we
as
don't get
important.
to see a droid do. Like we
Yeah.
don't. Droids are very either they're doing protocol, they're just doing business stuff, they're little mice droids cleaning up the place, what have you. They're not like three-wheeled killing machines.
Yeah.
So it's refreshing, I have
Yeah,
to say.
he's an MVP of the Ghost and of Lothal, and of
In our
the Rebel
hearts.
Alliance for sure. Um, Meanwhile, looking at the time, I think we're just
Yeah.
about out of time for tonight's Chopper Killathon. Um, we will eventually do like a proper best of Chopper at a later
Yes.
time. We wanted to keep it mostly focused to like spooky season kills and all that. We kept joking about it too in the Ahsoka show how he's a war criminal. And there's legit YouTube videos out there. If you just Google and search into YouTube like Star Wars Rebels Chopper war crimes or kill count or whatever,
You will
thousands of
find it.
videos will pop up. Like I
Yeah.
promise you, there's no shortage of content if you just want to enjoy yourself and watch a playlist of him just like killing people. It's actually really fun. How sick are we? Yeah, enjoy spooky season. And
We
this
go
week
hard.
on the VCN, we have like a relatively light week. We've got a happy hour tomorrow. We've got the Nightmare on Elm Street, which we've done a lot of discussion about. I feel like we've like preempted the nerf herders in the discussion. They're going
Oh,
to talk all about it
they'll
on
get deeper
Wednesday.
into it than we could, so
Yeah, I they'll go long on that one. And then Thursday, this one I'm so excited about. Like on Thursday, they're doing Terrifying Tales on Thursday, which is it's like so you guys know the Lego series. It's all humor based, right?
yeah.
So the thing that Lego does best, other than their stylization, is they really get to play with the characters in a way that they don't actually behave that way in canon, but they don't really break canon, right?
Yeah.
So they extrapolate like the humorous stuff. So Poe Dameron is our sort of straight man in all of this, where he arrives at Grabala the Hutt's takeover of the castle on Mustafar, and it starts hearing these stories. So there's a framing device, which is Grabala being told by Vinay these ridiculous stories straight out of Vader's castle, and it is just wild, stupid nonsense, and everything about it is awesome. There's a
It's so
Kylo
fun.
Ren story that's like based on the Lost Boys. Like it's nuts. So highly recommend
The
everyone
Knights of
tuning
Red.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very like 80. I mean, it's like beat for beat in some places. Like they just like stole it
Wow.
straight from the Lost Boys, which we just rewatched
Amazing.
last year around spooky season, and that movie
And I
is
watched for the first
insane.
time. I'd never seen it before. So, it was my
It's
my
great.
shot to
Yeah.
get into it, and I'm like, "Oh my god," like, I was not expecting it, and it's kind of like Goonies meets vampires, like meets Dracula.
Exactly. I
And
forgot how young it was, like,
yeah.
because the vampires are, like, teenagers, but, of course, they all look like they're in their 30s because that's what teenagers look like in
And
the 80s, but
Alex Winter, like I love Bill and Ted. Like you guys
mhm,
know how much I love Bill and Ted. And like Alex Winter is Bill S. Preston Esquire. And
yeah.
he's playing Marco, one of the vampires. I was just like,
I
what?
know, he's one of the
Like it
bad
was just
guys. Yeah.
blowing my mind there. So yeah, definitely
Yeah,
check
he's,
that
like,
out.
weirdly sexy in that movie too.
It's that
Um,
mullet, the curly
yeah, there's
mullet.
something about that '80s hair, but it's a fun yeah, Lost Boys is yeah, it's in Santa Cruz. It's always, like,
Santa Clara.
Santa Clara yeah, someplace
But
terrible.
Santa Cruz.
Um,
We'll call it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Alex Winters is
Oh, I would
terrific.
love to meet him. Oh, why can't
Um
he come to Rhode Island?
by the way, the Rhode Island Comic Con is just a few weeks away. So what do we have to? We should do our plugs. Okay, so
Do the
tomorrow
plugs.
happy hour,
Yes.
Wednesday Nerf Herder Council for Nightmare on Elm Street, which is very exciting. Thursday night watch along for Terrifying Tales. Oh my God, tune in because
Cute.
if you haven't seen Terrifying Tales yet, one, I would go watch it on my own and laugh, and then join the crew because I'm sure they're gonna have a lot of fun with it.
So you can have your
Gabala the
snarkies.
Hutt is played by the same voice actor who does Master Shake from Aqua Teen Hunger Force,
Oh,
Dana
Dana
Snyder. Yeah,
Snyder, yeah.
yeah,
I
which
love
is
him.
just awesome.
So
So
here it's like
that'll
picture
be
Master
Thursday.
Shake telling you these tales. It's
As a
already
Hutt,
funny.
that's the best part. As a Hutt,
Already
the
funny.
cousin of Jabba the Hutt. It writes itself. Um, and then there's no Sunday show because it's the fifth Sunday of the month, the way the calendar falls. So everyone gets to enjoy their weekend. And then on next Monday, we have the Rebels Revisited second annual Spooktacular, where we will talk about horror because we didn't at all do that on this episode.
Oh, it's spooky season. Like we
Yeah,
have to do it all month
exactly.
long.
So we'll have a lot
So
to talk about, our favorite
yep.
scary characters and everything else.
Yes.
Um, and then I think that's it for tonight.
Yeah. Oh, don't forget our T Public merch. We have fantastic shirts in our T Public store. Daughters of the Galaxy collection. Check out those fantastic shirts. They're available there at tpublic.com/user/virtual cantina. We also have our Rebels Revisited collection. Hu Yang is for the younglings. Ain't nothing to force with. It's so amazing. I love those shirts. We also have our patriotic. We have our pride still available. Um, all our other VCN shows. Make sure you get those. T Public does sales all the time, so if you want to get a shirt for as low as $16, check it out.
Mm. I would say think about now if you want to order a shirt for Rhode Island Comic Con if you're planning on attending. We are going to have one day where we wear our hockey jerseys. And of course, if you have racers or any other like VCN gear, prepare for
I
that.
wish I had my
Um,
hockey jersey. I have my baseball one, but yeah.
oh yeah, baseball or hockey. It'll be a jersey day. I don't think it's going to be specific.
Yeah.
And of course, the
Yay, thanks,
meetup.
Mike.
Oh yay, Mike! I've got to get me a Hu Yang. That's next. The Big Gay Explosion
Yes.
one is by far my favorite. Not just because I coined it as a phrase. I don't even remember how that started, but like I came up with Big Gay Explosion, and it wasn't
Because it
about
was
like
it was our pride show, and you're like, "It's gonna be a big gay explosion."
it's probably what it wasn't even on the Pride show. I was like promoting it. That's so funny. Um, so yeah, we'll have a day where we're all in VCN merch. I'm also
Yeah.
still planning on doing my Doctor Who cosplay for one of the days, despite the fact that there are basically no Doctor Who actors at Rhode Island Comic Con. I can't seem to catch a break. But I was like, I'm gonna wear this goddamn blue suit if it's gonna be the death of me. Um,
And you're
so
gonna look amazing. So make sure you meet us up at Rhode Island Comic Con at Dave and Buster's in the Providence Place Mall on November 3rd. It's a Friday night of the convention. It's always a good time. Dave and Buster's is wicked fun.
mhm.
Lots of arcade games. So make sure you bring a little extra money to play some games and drink some drinks.
I think we had like 50 of us there last year. It was very impressive,
It
and
was a great
some special
crowd.
guests
Yeah.
popped in.
Yes, we
So I'm
had
sure we'll be doing that. Yeah.
Antonio Vina, who's young Cassian Andor in Andor. His father joined us. We had who else was at the
There were a
show?
few actors who
There's a
popped in.
few. It was
It was
amazing.
nice because, more importantly, you're getting to hang out with like other members of the VCN family who we rarely get to see each other in person.
Yeah,
I
Dave
will
came all
also.
the way up. That was
That's right. Yeah, and I
crazy.
didn't
And his
almost didn't
family.
recognize him when he like shaved his facial hair. It was like a
Yeah,
whole
like
other
the
person.
whole beard was gone.
Yeah, it was
So
weird. Yeah, met the family, which is always fun. I also like
oh yay,
this.
Mike.
Uh,
Hey Jeff.
yeah. What was it? Rhode Island Comic Con is kind of the scene of the crime, is how I refer to it, right? Because that's kind of where Rebels Revisited was born,
It
or at least
was.
like we didn't like ink the deal, but like when Spencer and I were talking about it, and then like Ashley and I were also talking Rebels, and it was the kind of thing where things just triangulated in a way where like things happen at Rhode
Right.
Island Comic Con. We plan on meeting a lot of actors while we're there. It's where we got some interstitials recorded, like bumpers for the show and things like that. Um, like we met a lot of people, and maybe we're planning things with people on a go forward. Like there, a lot happens at Rhode Island, a lot of business, and a lot of like connecting with other members of the family. And then I think if we're talking about programming potentials, like bring your pitch, right? Like I'm gonna be there. Tell me about the show you want to have. I think that like we literally like started writing out, like not writing out, but started talking out what would a show about Star Wars Rebels look like, and that was 2 Rhode Island Comic Cons ago. And then
Yeah.
Ashley and I made
Wow.
it happen just a few months after that. It was pretty
Yeah, the
fast.
formal announcement was at Celebration Anaheim when we met up
Yeah,
for the Boonta
from Boone
Eve.
to Eve. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it was crazy.
exciting.
All right. Meanwhile, we are really out of time now. We're way over.
Yeah.
I thought we
Hi,
were going to
intern.
be um, out the door early because we don't have a watch along. But see, this we need everyone in the comments to be like, "Good night, guys. Good night." Um,
Kick us off the air. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
Um, but with that, we are going to leave you to the rest of our spooky week ahead, and we will be seeing you guys next Monday for our big Halloween show.
Yeah, so make sure you join us then. And thanks for joining us this week. We appreciate you. May the force be with you.
Night.
Wah, wah, wah.